Hello everyone and welcome to ProGuides Call of Duty. I am your host Sergeant Frost and today we welcome you to our very first video on our brand new Call of Duty channel. For today's video, we're going to be bringing you 8 techniques that pro players use that you probably don't. As we transition from Modern Warfare over to Cold War as a community, it is a great time to bring some new first-time COD players and returning veterans from other COD games up to speed on the meta. But before we get into the video, it's time for our first question of the day. Today's question is, what modes are you most excited for in Cold War? Personally, I'm a huge Warzone and Zombies fan, so I'm glad to see those modes make a return in their full glory. Let us know in the comment section down below what your answers are. Now let's jump straight into the video. For our first tip, we are going to be talking about a great technique that will help you win more gunfights and close range engagements. And that is learning how to jump shot and drop shot people you run into around the map. Many of you may have heard these techniques from past Call of Duties years ago, and I bet many of you have experienced some rage-inducing moments when it has happened to you in the middle of a kill streak. To start off, let's talk about jump shotting. Jump shotting is when you peek over an object, round a corner, or simply run into an enemy and immediately jump and shoot to throw off their aim. Whether you have a SCUF or a modded controller, or even if you're on keyboard and mouse, learning to instinctively jump around corners or when you get into a gunfight will save you from getting one-shot by someone camping in a corner. And it will give you the jump on someone when you surprise them by flying around a corner and spraying them in the chest. Jump shotting is nice for getting an advantage in a one-on-one aim duel versus an enemy, and it is nice for quick peeking corners and looking over vertical objects in a pinch. Now onto one of the most famously controversial and hated COD maneuvers, dropshotting. Dropshotting started when pro COD players of the past used a controller grip called claw. Claw grip allowed for a player to maintain full control over their joysticks while being able to press the face button keys on a controller. This allowed for players to drop shot, jump shot, reload cancel, and double wide tap in an instant. This technique brought in an era of dropshotting opponents, where in an instant you can go from standing to prone in milliseconds. This technique, when performed on low ping, made it seem like it was near impossible to frag some players who were quick on the sticks. Moving forward into the future, this maneuver became even more prevalent with the rise of SCUF and modded controllers in the general gaming space. Having paddles on the back of your controller allowed players to drop shot and jump shot without ever having to move their thumb or index finger out of place. Learning to drop shot through the use of claw grip or with the help of a modded controller will greatly improve your ability to win gunfights and will raise your KD in the process. If you want more help learning how you can improve your gameplay in Call of Duty, keep an eye out on our ProGuides social medias, website, and our YouTube channels to learn more about how you can get access to COD coaching coming soon. For our second tip, we will be talking about why and how you should cut off rotations on maps in Call of Duty. In a competitive environment, the sidelines of maps will always be filled with players camping and players trying to get flanks off behind your team. A map control technique that not many players will do is learning how to properly cut off rotations around the map. Learning how to cut off rotations is a key component of gaining complete map control in a match. The main thing you want to focus on when cutting off rotations is learning where players will typically spawn on certain maps. From there, using your in-depth knowledge of map spawns, you should always look to position yourself in the side lanes of the maps to engage people and cut them off when they begin to rotate towards the other side of the map. For instance, Hardpoint is a great game mode that relies heavily on flanks, early rotations, and flipping spawns. Learning to do these 3 things in combination with positioning yourself in side lanes to cut off players from the hardpoint will prevent them from flipping spawns and will lead to your team being in sole possession of the hardpoint longer. Most maps in Call of Duty are designed with 3 lanes as a basic canvas, with 2 teams positioned on either end of the map. Once one team leaves their original spawn and starts pushing towards the other side of the map, this will trigger the flipping of spawns and can give your team further map control. To counter this, many players will attempt to early rotate to the next hardpoint to establish spawns, and to cut off the rotations of the team that was previously holding the last hardpoint. Learning these map control concepts and learning how to position yourself on the map to cut off rotations will win you a lot more games and will allow you to trap the enemies and dominate the enemy team. For our third tip, we will be explaining the technique of pinching an objective to take it back from enemies. This tip will apply to game modes that have a general common objective, such as hardpoint, capture the flag, search and destroy, and domination, for example. Pinching an objective in simplest terms is when you divide up your forces to attack a target from multiple different angles. You will also commonly find that this tactic works best when an objective is in a building or in an enclosed area and not out in the open. The worst way you can attack an objective is by flooding through the same doorway as your teammates or on the same side of the building. In order to make the jobs for the defenders harder, you need to break the attention of the players in the objective and force them to pay attention to multiple threats around them. Attacking an objective building from a different angle can allow you to set up a crossfire with your teammates, which will allow you to clean up enemies that were in the most entrenched and hard to reach positions. If you watch any professional hardpoint or capture the flag match from past Call of Duties, you will always see a well-coordinated team attempt to break an objective area by hitting the target area from different sides. Doing this technique successfully will allow your team to gain control of the objective, clear out all enemies hiding nearby, and will flip spawns and force the enemy team to spawn away from the objective area. Learning to be disciplined and coordinated with your team will always lead to the most success and the most games won in the long run. For our fourth tip, we will be learning how to flip and control spawns on all maps. Like I reiterated earlier in the video, most maps in COD are designed around a 3-lane design canvas mostly. So this means you will have a midsection and 2 side lanes for most maps, no matter how they are designed. Also, imagine that most maps' spawning system is designed like a football field. You have your team on one side and the enemy team on the other side, and you're trying to meet in the middle. The way you want to flip spawns is by holding the mid area of the map and slowly pushing forward towards the enemy territory. The further you push towards an enemy's general spawn, you will eventually hit a certain invisible threshold, and you will break the spawn trap that your team has set up, and the enemies will begin to spawn behind you. As a player, you should learn the maps and their spawning systems well enough to know how far you can push towards an enemy's side of the map before you flip their spawning system. Learning how to do this on a deeper level will allow you to have a sixth sense and predict where enemies will spawn. This will lead you to collect more frags and will keep you safer when on score streaks because you'll have a general idea of where the enemies are always located. Learning to break spawn traps and intelligently flipping spawns is a technique that all players should learn if they want to get better at Call of Duty. For our fifth tip, we will be talking about engaging people within your weapon's distance. If you've been playing Call of Duty for some years now, you will probably have a feel for what ranges certain classes of weapons will perform the best at in-game. Rifles, LMGs, and snipers are always best for long range. SMGs, shotguns, and pistols are always the best for close range engagements. I see way too many players take fights with people at ranges well outside the ideal distance for their weapons. Pro players understand their guns and the loadouts built around them to a science. You won't find an SMG player trying to aim duel someone across the map, and you won't find an assault rifle player running into a room trying to hipfire spray down multiple people at once. When you choose a weapon to go into a match with, abuse its strengths and respect its weaknesses. Learning to set up gunfights with people within your weapon's strengths will almost always work out in your favor if you get the drop on them first. If pro players can have 2.0 plus KDs by respecting how their weapons and loadouts ideally operate, then you can too. And by doing that, you will reap the same rewards that they do. For tip number 6, we'll be talking about the benefits of shouldering to peek. Shouldering to peek is a technique many pro players will use to get information quickly on an area in front of them. In other games, you may have heard this movement called jiggle peeking or slow peeking. The purpose of this peek is to get a visual of what is ahead of you before you proceed moving forward, or before you wide swing the corner looking to engage someone. The best way to perform this is to walk up to an angle or a corner in the map and quickly try to move yourself horizontally without exposing your whole body. The goal of this peek is to do it quickly and to not die in the process of peeking into an area just looking for information. Mastering the technique of shouldering when you peek will keep you safe from being lit up by enemies close by and will give you the opportunity to quickly put shots into someone without having to expose yourself and fully commit to the fight. If you watch pro players closely, you will see all of them do this like it's second nature, and most times they will do it so fast and effectively you won't even notice that it happened. For our 7th tip, we'll be talking about a topic that many new players struggle with, and that is Minimap Awareness. Minimap Awareness is a skill that comes with time and practice. Getting into the habit of checking your minimap every few seconds is the best way to coach your brain into being subconsciously aware of what is going on around you. Just like having really good game sense, having Minimap Awareness will allow you to better set up fights with nearby enemies, and will allow you to defend yourself from enemies trying to sneak up behind you. Many years ago, I got in the habit of always going into game settings and making my minimap as big as possible, and forcing myself to keep one eye on the map and one eye on my screen at all times. Through many years of practice across several different games, I now have great situational awareness of what is going on around me, and I perform much better and die a lot less in game now because of it. Now that Cold War will allow consoles to have a field of view slider just like PC, I recommend making your FOV scale as wide as possible to allow you to get the biggest field of view around you while playing. Improving your minimap awareness combined with having a higher FOV will give you the best situational awareness possible in-game. For our 8th and final tip of the day, we will be talking about why you shouldn't be conservative with your utility. One of the biggest issues I see in players who struggle to improve in Call of Duty is their misuse or underuse of their utility. Call of Duty is a game franchise that is generous enough to give you full utility every time you spawn. Too many players will die while still having full utility available to them, and it makes no sense to be given such powerful tools only to have very few people use them properly. Each piece of equipment you can spawn in with has distinct abilities that can help you survive longer and get more frags as time goes on. You can also equip certain perks to be able to carry 2 of each type of utility and maximize their benefits that they can give you twice over. Frag grenades will allow you to clear out common objective areas for enemies. A well-placed grenade can get a multi-kill and clear out an objective, or it can heavily damage enemies inside, allowing you and your team to finish them off easily. Smokes will allow you to mask your movement as you traverse the map, and they act as a great shroud of distraction to allow you and your team to push into an objective while the enemy's vision is obscured. Smokes can cause a panic inside an enclosed room, and if you run a thermal scope on your weapon in combination with these nades, there's nothing the enemy can do to stop you. Flashbangs and concussions are great tools for clearing out a room and for impairing enemies in hiding. Use these types of grenades to visually, audibly, and mobily impair someone and pick up a clean frag while they can't fight back. These types of grenades travel far, are hard to dodge, and deploy quickly. Use them whenever you have doubts if an enemy is nearby or hiding in an enclosed building. Make sure to be liberal when using these things because they will more than often save your life if you use them properly. Molotovs are great for clearing out a corner or a hiding spot for an enemy that cannot be reached by conventional utility. Mollies burn hard and quick and will do a lot of damage to enemies that are caught in them for too long. They are great tools when used indoors and will often lead to easy frags on multiple people if used at the right time. And finally, we have stim shots. These things are straightforward and they will heal you back to full HP after you sustain damage. Never be too conservative with these things and hold on to them for the ideal perfect moment. In Cold War, these things regenerate over time, so make sure to use them after any time you've taken damage. These are the best ways to use common utility, and make sure you aren't stingy when using them because it can be the difference between living and dying. Well everyone, that's all we have for 8 techniques that pros use that you don't. If you liked the video, then be sure to drop a like and consider subscribing if you enjoyed the content. We upload new videos just like this one every single day, and the best way to stay notified of that is by ringing that notification bell. Don't forget to check out ProGuides.com to get some access to some truly amazing coaching. Remember to stay safe out there, and I will see you all again very soon.